Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com are the websites. $1,000 contest. Need to have them up on YouTube in the next 4 or 5 days. I need to judge them by like next Wednesday. But I'll watch them right up to the day. I'm going to pick the best video that I think gets the word out about Obama being a liar and a criminal and a front man for the New World Order. But let's not just blame him. Let's get past him to the real elites and bring them to justice. Max Keiser is our guest. Max, I want to go to calls. Doug and Dan and Chris and Dr. Gushin and others that are holding toll-free number to join us, 1-800-259-9231. But you've got a pretty good brain. I mean, I've been reading some of your writings from years ago, and almost all of it came true. What do you think's going to happen in the next few years? Because I knew that Obama had this godlike level, but that as soon as he proved he was a liar, that would dissipate. The bigger they are, the harder they'll fall. But it also seems that Obama's controllers are going to want to stage something. A new war with Iran, an economic collapse, more economic terrorism, domestic stage terror attacks. I mean, what do you see happening in the next couple of years with the people taking over all these town halls, going after both parties, and how the empire is going to strike back?
Well, as you know, as I've said on your show before, I think that as the economy continues to collapse, there's going to be a big push across the country, state to state, to legalize gambling, and that gambling is going to be more of a factor in the economy. There's going to be more ways to gamble, specifically online. The reason you don't have online gambling right now is because of the mob in Vegas and New Jersey. They control gambling in those two cities.
So you think the revolution is just us turning into total slobs? You think we're going to get worse?
Yeah, I think that the combination of online gambling, cheap, pharmaceutically engineered, over-the-counter, mood-altering drugs, and terrible food products, high fructose corn syrup-based food products. You put all those things into a cocktail of silliness, and you end up with a population that is completely strung out and just trying to gamble their way toward making. Basically, it's indentured servitude is what we're heading toward, because the debts are never going to be paid. They're simply never going to be paid. And as the banks reorganize the system right now, they're putting all the bad bets into the publicly held banks. Like, for example, in the UK, this Northern Rock, which was the first bank, one of the first banks to go under, they just announced that they've got 3 times the bad toxic assets that they thought that they had. But that's a publicly owned bank. So now it's really the public that owns those toxic assets. The private banks are the banks that are held by the runners of the Gulag casino state, and of course they hold the performing assets and the performing loans. So they're dividing the bad assets from the good assets, and they're keeping the ones that are still relatively high profile and performing, and they're putting all the really trashy junk, grade Z, never ever going to be paid back into the public domain and the public ownership, and the public will never pay back those loans, and the public will continuously get themselves further and further into debt. Look at the Cash for Clunkers program is a perfect example. They encourage people to take cars that they own 100%, trade them in, and put themselves into debt. Like now they get a new car, but they're on debt. They've increased their debt pile, and the debt levels are continuing to increase.
Max Keiser,
yeah.
It sounds like you're describing hell. And on top of that, now the police, the government, the minions, 10% of Texans with arrest warrants, more fines, more fees. The other part of the equation is those of us that don't want to drink corn syrup, be zombies, eat GMO, we're going to be like Planet of the Apes, being chased by the CPS and police with them with nets scooping us up to take us back to the FEMA camp so they get more chips to buy big gulp beers and sit there buying hookers at the slot machines. I mean, just a hell force of like lobotomized zombies. It's already like that going, government God, give me your money. So using these hordes of piratical scum to steal everything to then give it to the banks. We'll be right back. I think Max Keiser and myself suffer from the same thing. We're really sensitive guys, and this amount of craziness and corruption is getting to us. Max Keiser's come up with a new thing, something new to commoditize for Goldman Sachs and others. They can turn into a commodity. Tell folks about it. We can turn dog poop into a new commodity, correct?
Well, they've got these websites out there like mailpoop.com that send dog poop to people. And my thought is that if Goldman Sachs is so smart at turning junk into commoditized mortgage obligations and all these other flora and fauna of the financial engineering sphere, turn this dog poop into $100 or $200 or $300 billion worth of dog poop collateralized mortgage obligations, which I'm sure that they'll try to do it. If you send them dog poop, I'm sure they will try to turn it into a dog poop.
Hey, they took your program and tried to make a commodity out of terror attacks. Remember that?
The policy analysis market was based on my technology, as I've said on your show before. John Poindexter created the policy analysis market, a prediction market, to try to predict terrorist attacks. He used my virtual specialist technology, and I wrote about it in the Financial Times saying this is only going to encourage terror attacks. And here's something else interesting economically going forward. You know, they're going to start trading box office futures contracts on the Cantor Exchange. So if you want like Indiana Jones Part 6, you can buy and sell futures based on the movie coming out in a year or 2 years from today. So naturally, what you're going to see is two things. Number one, studios are going to manipulate the prices on competing studios' projects. So you see market manipulation in the box office futures contract to try to change people's perception of movies before they're released. And number two, within 24 months, they're going to need a bailout.
And they're going to be rigging when movies come out to rig that.
Well, I think that, you know, Hollywood has gotten a free ride during this whole breakdown of society in America. Where are these Hollywood producers and Hollywood stars? If you look at a movie, a TV show, for example, like Entourage on HBO, you've got these punks in Hollywood making $500,000 a day, giving each other $250,000 cars as presents, and they portray this life that people watching that, it must be like, you know, mental crack on your head that you want to just run to Hollywood immediately. Meanwhile, what is that industry doing to support this economy as a whole? Absolutely nothing. They're probably the most irresponsible industry in America today. You know, all this Enron accounting that we talk about and all of the high-powered corporate fraud and banking fraud we talk about, it had a name back in the 70s and 80s. They used to call it Hollywood accounting. Now, Hollywood accounting has become the Globe's accounting methodology, where they book profits today and they defer losses in perpetuity. That's what Hollywood accounting is about, and that's what all these banks are now doing. If they make a gain today speculating with our money, they book it today as a profit and pay themselves a bonus. If they lose money, they keep it on their books for 20, 30, 40 years, and they package it as a loan, and they trade it with each other in perpetuity, and nobody ever captures that loss. So they can't lose. And that is draining the economy of much-needed capital, which is causing unemployment.
And what else they do, as you know, but people won't know, like, let's say you're part of a film, you're supposed to get a percentage. They always factor that in a pool into losses, so they never pay the underlings. They never pay the little people that are involved in any ownership. It's just all a criminal mafia organization.
Well, part of the casino gulag model is you're willing to work for free. And in Los Angeles, of course, you get a shot at working at an agency or something. You're willing to work for nothing for a year or two. But now they're applying that to the car companies and pharmaceutical companies, and everyone is now being asked to work for nothing for a year or two, or go on furlough for a year or two. And they don't want to pay anyone anything anymore.
But Warren Buffett gets $98 billion of our tax money and is called a genius because he gave most of his other money to eugenics.
Well, Buffett is, unfortunately, this scandal is not reflecting well on the Oracle from Omaha, I'm afraid, because if you look at his statements and the timing of his statements and the fact that he loaned money to Goldman Sachs and they pay him 10% on that money. The American citizen loans Goldman Sachs money and they get nothing. He's got a warrant to convert stock at 115. The stock's now trading, I didn't check today, but over 140 or something like that. He's already $2 billion in the black on his loan.
Keiser, stay there. Got a break.